This podcast is recorded on the traditional and unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people.
British Columbia, I've seen your mountains high, seen your pretty rainbows and your blue crystal skies, watched your winding rivers as they flow around the bend. To me, you're not a stranger, you'll always be a friend.
Coming to you from the West Coast, this is Politicoast. Today is October 17th, 2019, and this is episode 160. Politicoast is the BC Politics podcast. Tell us what you think of the show by leaving us a review or get at us on social media. Thank you to our patrons for your support. Your generosity makes this show possible. Help us build the show by throwing us a couple bucks a month at patreon.com/Politicoast and by recommending the podcast to a friend. Editing services are provided by Cortado Productions. I'm Scott Delano-Bohm.
And I'm Matthew Naylor.
Thanks for coming back.
Always happy to be here. I am just so excited to be discussing all the platforms today. I have so many angry things to say.
Excellent. Well, that's pretty much all we're going to talk about today, as this is the much teased platform episode. Now that all the parties have finally released theirs.
And one quarter of Canadians are done voting already, but...
minor details. But we're going to spend the whole episode on that, breaking it down. And because this is the last episode before the election, well, at least until we do the whole thing again in 3 months, because we did a Hun Parliament.
Yeah.
We'll be talking exclusively federal politics and the platforms. Politicoast is in partnership with BC Today, British Columbia's daily newspaper dedicated exclusively to BC politics. Sign up for your free trial to have unique coverage of the BC legislature delivered to your inbox every morning. Listeners to Politicoast offer the enter code CITIZEN, all lowercase, for access to a special rate. For your free 2-week trial of the newsletter, go to britishcolumbiatoday.ca.
Well, why don't we jump right in? And, given that they are the incumbents, let's start with that incumbency advantage. The Liberal Party.
You really should have just said we're going to move forward to their platform, because that is their platform. Forward.
Forward to our past. Make way for our history. The future is behind us.
Yeah, so this, quote, real plan for the middle class is more or less just filled with a lot of small little, here's a few dollars here, here's a few dollars there for every group under the sun.
I think this is a very standard style incumbent party first term platform. It's like, oh, okay, we have figured out the big things. We figured out a couple of the big things that we are not going to do. And now we have 1,000 tiny ideas that have been all generated by the different policy shops, but we didn't have time to get them through Parliament in time for this election or for to implement this. And so it is like a bunch of nickels and a bunch of dimes that all end up to several $billion. But the issue of our time, climate and environment. What are the Liberals doing to prevent the extinction of the species?
So their headline item is they want Canada to be net zero by 2050. They're going to put in legally binding targets, or at least until the next government gets in and decides to undo them all, as well as appoint an expert panel to advise. They're going to maintain the price on pollution that they've brought in. So, that's good, but at the same time, it probably needs to go a lot higher if we're actually going to get to the 2050 targets.
Oh, yeah.
So maintaining really isn't enough.
Planting 2 billion trees. Where?
We have a lot of space in Canada.
We do have a lot of space, but a lot of the space that is tree plantable is already occupied by forest. I suppose this could mean planting trees in the melting tundra, which presumably will become more tree habitable.
Well, there's also reforestation efforts on the parts that are logged or have been similarly damaged or destroyed.
Which there almost always is a provincial mandate for anyway, but, good, I guess. So you flagged something, the low-cost flood insurance program.
Yeah, so part of the climate platform they have is, in addition to all the ways to prevent it, or at least, try to moderately prevent it, because it's not going far enough, they're also talking about how to adapt to climate change. So they focus actually a lot on this on flood risk. And interestingly, something I noticed was they have want to introduce a low-cost flood insurance program, which seems like a great idea until you look at the U.S. and see how their flood insurance program has turned out.
Yeah, federally flooded flood insurance in the United States has been a mechanism of class preservation and also just
it's a disaster of a program. Mostly because
disasters.
Yes, mostly because it serves just to insulate everybody from the risk of really bad decisions about where to build in floodplains.
Yeah,
And it's effectively a subsidy to make bad decisions.
yeah, the idiot subsidy.
Yes. I mean, maybe in the fine print, when the legislation actually comes through, there'll be something to prevent that. But right now, it seems like a big moral hazard and not a great plan.
No, the biggest ticket item is the $5 billion Clean Power Fund. Great, I guess. I am in favor of clean power over dirty power, I suppose. However, I don't know what clean power means in the liberal context. Does it include natural gas? I'm not sure. Are solar panels all that clean? I'm not sure about that either. But they've got a lot of 5,000s in here. $5,000 net zero homes grant, $5,000 electric vehicle charging stations, and $5,000 zero emission school and transit buses. Also a vegan meat packing plant. Oh, wait, sorry. A pilot project for low emissions oil tankers.
Which, there's something just hilarious about that. It's like peak dirty centrism right there.
Yeah.
Just in the worst possible way.
Yes. So moving along to the economy. We are going to be moving along at a fairly rapid clip this evening because we've got a lot to cover. And
There's about 400 pages of platforms have gotten distilled into a few pages of notes for us to talk about. So we won't be spending a huge amount of time. But I guess overall, like the Liberals' climate policy, I mean, they have some decent stuff in there, not really enough to hit their net zero targets.
No. So it's a lot of aspirational stuff and not a clear path on how to get there, although definitely it's a clear path on how to almost get
Incrementally
somewhere.
advance towards it. If there's no time limit on that, it would be better. But we'll move on to the economy now. The other thing that the Liberals have famously said needs to be balanced off against the environment.
So $25 million have been allocated to a national infrastructure fund because that's apparently how much infrastructure we need in Canada.
So they talked about creating a national infrastructure fund, but if you actually dig into the financials at the bottom, they're barely putting any money into it. The other interesting thing there is they don't really talk about what they want to do with it beyond very broad details, except they name drop one specific project, which is the Newfoundland-Labrador Fixed Link.
There are 6 seats in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Well, apparently this is one of those policy slightly nutty ideas that just kind of resurface every decade or so, and they want to tunnel between Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, to get from the bustling metropolis of Happy Valley Goose Bay to the economically essential region of Hibernia.
Yeah, well, apparently there's a small cottage industry in Newfoundland of feasibility studies on this, so
yeah,
they'll be.
I mean, we have the same thing here. We get a feasibility study every 10 years or so on a fixed link to Vancouver Island, and it
that's way less feasible.
Yeah, it continues to come back with a solid nope.
Do you have $400 billion you want to spend and nothing better to spend it on?
No, not in liquid cash anyway.
So the rest of their economic platform, there's a lot of kind of, like I said at the start, smallish policies that kind of help out kind of everyone just a little bit. Stuff like they want to have a $15 federal minimum wage, give more money for workers to be retrained and pay for skills training, guaranteed apprenticeships, more EI support for seasonal workers.
I noticed that they are cutting the cost of federal incorporation from $200 to $50, which is like a blinding misunderstanding of what the actual costs of incorporation are. By the way, if you need an incorporation, I'm sure I can find one of my lawyer friends to do it for about $1,000. So, Although they
But the filing fee is going to be cheaper.
Yeah. So disbursements at $50 rather than $200. Congratulations, liberals. Rural high-speed internet, though, that is a good call.
Yeah. I mean, it's decent infrastructure that definitely needs to be invested in. So good on them for that. They also want stable and predictable public transportation funding. Also good.
Well,
And speaking of eliminating fees, they also want to eliminate the fees from the Business Development Bank of Canada and Export Development Canada to support exports. But I mean, I admittedly don't know the finer details of that, but I'd be surprised if Export Development Canada fees are the major barrier to growing our overseas markets.
yeah. Although, like, I can see those kinds of things being a barrier to entry for smaller firms. I know that the conservative structuring of those type of grant programs did tend to favor larger industry, which, I mean, fair enough. But corporate growth, like economic growth right now, is projected to be based not on consumer spending as it has been for the last decade, but shifting towards a requirement for corporations to grow, because literally Canadians are over leveraged and there needs to be more money being generated from like actual producing entities.
Yeah, and overall, the economic growth hasn't been great in this country, particularly at the per capita level.
Mm-hmm.
It's been largely boosted up by immigration, like, it's good, but we haven't really been making the productivity gains that's really been needed to lift that up. Not that the Liberals really address that.
No, they don't. But, this will make, I don't know, a couple things easier, and maybe that's
It'll help with the margins.
Yeah.
But like that I think just probably describes the Liberal platform here is help at the margins.
Mm-hmm. Though that's a less inspiring, well, not like particularly less inspiring, but slightly less inspiring motto than moving forward.
Yeah. Well, let's move forward onto the affordability question, which has kind of been what this election was supposed to be about, back when we thought it was going to be about policy. So they want to take their first-time homebuyers program and increase the qualifying value up to $800,000. So people, here can actually take advantage of it, and they can win some Metro Vancouver seats.
I was wondering, because that $80,000...
That was a typo in the notes.
Okay. They'll be increasing the Canada Child Benefit, hitting up 250,000 more childcare spaces, and making maternity and paternity benefits tax-free.
As well as increasing student grants up to $1,200 a year.
Yay.
Reducing interest on student loans and...
How much federal student loan interest is there? Not a ton, but...
As well as defer repayments until people are earning over $35,000 a year. They've also promised to cut wireless bills by 25%, but no idea how that's going to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they'll be sending sternly worded letters to TELUS.
I mean, they could take your advice and just make these sternly worded letters saying, "Hello, TELUS, you are ours now." But in lieu of that, maybe it's just a paper shredder that will cut 1/4 off of the bill in a physical sense, because that makes about as much sense. Taxes.
Yeah, so they're not doing a huge amount to change the tax system. They responded to the Conservatives. We're going to give everyone a tax cut in the bottom bracket with raising the basic personal amount to $15,000. They're fairly equivalent. Like, there's some minor changes at like each end of the income spectrum, but like for the vast majority of people, they're more or less equivalent. It'll save some people a few $100s in taxes.
A national vacancy tax will be implemented.
No real details on that.
But
it's single line in their platform.
But also, what? Like, I understand that in liberal strongholds and like contested regions there is a housing crisis, but in also all of Atlantic Canada, I don't know that there actually is a housing crisis. I think there may be more of a skill shortage. Whether that is the right way to address this, like, we penalize you for not having someone who wants this house, is necessarily the right way to go about it.
It's also only on properties owned by non-Canadians.
What?
Yeah.
Well, that's dumb and problematic.
Yeah. They also want to modernize anti-avoidance rules, both in terms of, offshore tax havens, that sort of thing, as well as they want to make tech giants pay money on the revenue they earn in Canada, even if they're not physically situated here. This is one of those things that you see in all the party platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps most interestingly is they want a 10% luxury tax on cars, boats, and aircrafts over $100,000.
What kind of aircraft costs less than $100,000?
That's a good question. That's what I was kind of wondering. Like, even your starter Cessnas, they're got to be over $100,000, I think.
I don't want to fly in an aircraft that costs less than $100,000. I think that's
ultralights, maybe. You could probably get an ultralight.
I don't want to fly in an ultralight. I want it to be heavy.
Usually, you actually want aircraft to be lighter, so they need less power to stay up. So that's kind of interesting. Luxury taxes, while maybe somewhat inefficient to administer, aren't the worst idea, because you don't really get less of the economic activity that you want to discourage, because the main reason people buy luxury goods is for the status symbol. And if it's $10,000 more because there's an extra $10,000 tax on it, that doesn't change the utility of why people are buying luxury goods.
Yeah, so that's fine. Vacancy tax is a little confusing, but speaking of non-Canadians, foreign policy. To continue peacekeeping, that is meaningless, because we don't really do peacekeeping anymore, nor is peacekeeping...
We do have a few UN missions on the go, but
kind of,
but it's not nearly to the extent it used to be. Also, the international security situation changed a lot, and it's not necessarily the most relevant model to respond to the current conflicts in the world.
No, they're also going to be creating Defense Procurement Canada.
So this would be an agency that would hopefully unscrew the massive clusterfuck that is defense procurement.
Either that, or it will be the place where ministers' careers go to die. To strengthen Arctic sovereignty.
Yeah. They don't provide much more details besides they want to do that. That's the sort of thing all the parties say they want to do.
Maybe it's where we're going to be planting all those 2 billion trees. We'll have that's how we're going to be exerting sovereignty.
So they want to expand our role in multilateral organizations such as NATO and the UN, as well as dedicate more resources to the International Criminal Court and the World Trade Organization. I mean, all of those are fine. It's good to see in this modern environment commitments to multilateralism.
Yeah, especially since we have, huge problems with cooperating with our closest allies at the moment, which is why presumably there is the platform plank in there to modernize the Safe Third Country Agreement.
Yep.
Provide more resources to the ICC, WTO, and build on the Magnitsky Act to combat.
This is also one that shows up in a lot of party platforms.
Yeah, because Russophobia is very popular.
It's also just a decent act.
Oh, yeah. So. No. I'm not saying it's bad policy.
Yeah.
Healthcare.
Yes. So the Liberals want to collaborate with the provinces to do a bunch of stuff, such as take the next steps towards farmer care, expand home and palliative care, create national mental health standards, and ensure all Canadians have access to a family doctor. But, these are the sort of things that you need the provinces to play ball with, and given who's running some of the provinces, I wouldn't put a huge amount of stock in that.
Nope, but in the meantime, they will be doubling the Canada Disability Benefit, providing $30 million for pediatric cancer research, and giving veterans up to $3,000 in counseling before a claim is required, which that's very good, because we have a serious problem with mental health care for our veterans. Also banning conversion therapy, which...
Good.
Good.
Long overdue.
Yep. Even using the term conversion therapy is kind of misuse of the term therapy. And ending the blood ban, which...
I mean, astute political watchers will notice that was in their last platform, so...
Yeah, and they did. But they replaced it with another equally... Well, not equally restrictive, but just as prohibitionary blood ban that requires 1 year of abstinence prior to donating.
For safety and security, a lot of focus on firearms. They want to give municipalities the right to ban handguns, which is weird and probably not constitutional.
I mean, maybe. That one I'd have to see how the ban was
structured and everything.
structure.
But yeah,
I mean, probably it will be way easier for municipalities to restrict ownership rather than ban them outright. I actually really like Canada's gun control system, where like basically anyone theoretically can get a gun, but you have to wait and you have to fill out a bunch of forms, because if you're not the kind of person who has the patience to fill out a bunch of forms, maybe I don't really want you owning a gun.
yeah, I think our system works fairly well. But like the bigger problem in terms of preventing access to firearms is smuggling over the border. But the Liberals want to provide additional resources to combat arms smuggling and anti-gang efforts. So good on that. They also have a bunch of different changes to the legal system, minor stuff around criminal case review, hiring more prosecutors, changing some prosecution stuff. We won't really dive into that, but if you're interested in reading all about it, you can check out the platforms that we'll link to.
For Indigenous Canadians, there is an expansion of First Nations policing, generally supporting band initiatives. I think this is a general shift away from the more paternalist to a still paternalist but slightly less paternalist view of the interactions with First Nations people.
Yeah. Additionally, they want UNDRIP legislation by the end of 2020, and they're promising to eliminate all long-term drinking water problems by 2021, which they've been making a fair bit of progress on already.
Mm-hmm.
Long-term's an interesting modifier to that, but I'm not sure what to read into that.
I was somewhat disappointed by the digital charter not having a right to repair as part of it, but they do have a couple of interesting things in there in terms of like data portability, knowing how one's data is being used, because privacy is going to be a huge issue in the now, basically, and freedom from online harassment, etc. And also a $200 credit for children aged 12 to visit cultural places. Fun stuff.
Yeah, as well as they want to bring in more Canadian content requirement for digital providers. So you know your Netflix will have to have more Canadian stuff on it.
That's cool. I like Alias Grace.
So overall thoughts on the Liberal platform?
I mean, it's fine. It's good. It's probably what I would have liked to have seen this term. I would love to actually see a bunch of these things get implemented. Yeah, stewardship is hard, and I think they've come up with a bunch of ideas now that they actually can get through if they can only figure out how Parliament works.
Yeah, a lot of the individual stuff isn't too bad, but I guess my main complaint about it is
Bit of a lack of vision.
a lack of vision. Yeah, there isn't much to tie it all together beyond, here's a tax credit for someone, here's a grant for someone else. Here are some minor tweaks. We're going to cut our federal incorporation fee by $150. So like a lot of little things that like individually are probably like the small incremental steps that government should be following. But
No one's
I honestly
inspired by a $150 cut to the federal incorporation fee.
yeah, and like I don't really have a good sense of where what Canada would look like 10 years from now under a Liberal government.
Yeah, I think they basically just want us to look the same but richer.
The same but better.
Yeah. Moving along to the Conservative Party, climate and environment.
Yeah. So the Conservatives' climate policy is mostly we have to have a climate policy, so we're going to put something out. Although it starts with repealing the carbon tax, which is the center-right, ideologically consistent thing that a Conservative should do, to have carbon taxes, but because it has the T word in it, they're freaking the fuck out and want to cancel it. So,
even though a carbon tax is a definitionally conservative solution to the
Yes.
climate problem. But anyway.
So instead of that, they have a whole bunch of other ideas, such as they have a green investment standards, which is really like a backdoor cap and pay a bunch of money for clean tech stuff. So under the system, they'd basically put caps on various companies. And if the companies exceed those emissions, they'd be forced to invest in clean technology. So it's a highly inefficient carbon tax.
So
That's not a carbon tax.
a cap and grab.
Yes. It's weird. It doesn't make much sense, but it's the how do we stop large emitters if we're not actually going to have a carbon tax?
I'm actually in favor of like innovation, like green innovation investment. Like I think that having the carbon tax largely returned as part of effectively a green shift is like nice from a public policy / political standpoint, but we do need, I think, to basically come to terms with the fact that if we are going to stop catastrophic climate change, we are going to have to take carbon out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, at some point, I think that's definitely the case. Is we're going to have to not just be net zero, it's carbon negative at some point.
And to be clear, that is possible. We have taken enough nitrogen out of the atmosphere to make massive changes to the ecosystem of marine and terrestrial environments already. And we've only been doing that for like 100 years or so.
Although I will point out it's a little easier when you're taking the thing that is 78% of the atmosphere rather than the thing that's measured in the parts per million. But like there are companies that are investing in it. There's one up in Squamish, I think Carbon Engineering. So there is work being done, and it's not economical yet, but more investment in that would be good. And some of the various platform planes in the conservative platform would help that along.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also small little things like the public transit tax credit, which the last one they had was used by almost nobody. Didn't really help much.
Oh, and they also called Danny Coderre an asshole. Sorry, and raw sewage dumps.
Oh, yeah, that is entirely in there to beat the Liberals over the head with, because the environment minister signed off on a raw sewage discharge in Montreal.
It's not at all something that would allow Vancouver to, replace our wooden sewers.
Yeah, they do want to do it, but they don't talk about how, like, the actual funding that would be required to properly separate sewer systems.
Yeah.
You just need a lot of money for that.
Yes, you do.
They're not really investing in that.
No, you don't. We really don't do those kinds of things anymore. We don't do those big, amazing, ambitious projects like where they had to lift Chicago up by 0.5 meter and then...
Yeah, that's actually some really cool bit of information.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a diversion, and we have so much to talk about. But they're going to harmonize plastic recycling standards across Canada, so woo! The Pacific garbage patch is solved.
Well,
even
they
though
do
no
want
one wants our plastic to recycle anyway.
Well, I think the more interesting part of that is the ban exports of plastic waste, unless it can be shown to be effectively recycled somewhere else, which, I mean, that's probably a good thing, because Canada is going to have better control over their solid waste streams than a lot of the places we have been exporting stuff to.
Although,
it's like administratively complicated and just maybe not really the best way to target it.
And is that actually just a thing to score points for the Filipino community because of the garbage shipments?
I mean, it is actually a big problem that...
Oh, no, I know it's a huge problem, but the
global recycling system's actually in a bit of a crisis mode right now, since China just said no to taking in most of the world's recycling.
Mm-hmm. So that's a problem.
Yeah. But let's move over to the thing the conservatives like to claim is, the thing they are the best on, which is the economy.
Yes. Despite much evidence to the contrary, but they have to require companies to report solvency of pension funds, which, I mean, great. Gordon Gekko cries himself to sleep at night, but whatever.
I mean, that seems fine. They also want to restrict bonuses that executives can get when a firm's in bankruptcy if they don't have a solvent pension fund. It's a good policy, but I think more interestingly is their cut regulatory burden by 25% by implementing a 2-for-1 rule.
I mean, actually, that one's not terrible. I don't know that the federal overregulation is as bad as it was in BC in 2001, but this is a policy that does work occasionally.
It really depends on the implementation and what rules there are.
Yeah.
And you also just don't want a situation where you have fewer but much more discretionary rules and you end up spending more time trying to navigate the discretionary nature. So it can, depending on how things are structured, either be good or bad.
They also intend on declaring projects for the general advantage of Canada, which is basically just a promise to infringe on provincial responsibilities.
Well, actually, the way they phrase it as having Canada do the things that are Canadian jurisdiction at the federal level, basically it's we want pipelines more so than the other guys do.
How? How could they want them more than the Liberals? The Liberals bought the... Never mind. Yeah. But they want to create a national energy corridor and build the Trans Mountain Pipeline. So yeah, sure, whatever. It's not a national energy program. It's a national energy corridor. Also, they promise to invest in infrastructure, break down interprovincial trade barriers, and I mean, that was definitely something that the most recent new agreement on internal trade was supposed to do, and we...
It did a little bit, but it's nowhere near enough. There's still a lot of barriers in
It's
place.
so bad. They're so bad.
So this is something that's actually really good to focus on, but the problem is it's hard for the federal government to enforce a lot of this stuff because most of these trade barriers aren't, Alberta saying no to beef C wine. It's stuff like the regulations on trucking are slightly different between two provinces. So, large loads that can only move during the daytime in one province can only move at night in the other. And like all of these little tiny regulatory things that just aren't harmonized.
Though if you've run afoul of your commercial trucking regulations, please do call me. I do those tickets.
So there's a lot of those things that would be great to break down, but it also means it's kind of an intractable problem that takes just a lot of not very fun negotiations with 10 angry provinces.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's good if they want to do it, but the how is the big thing that isn't really answered there.
They want to expand the Red Seal program and also support supply management because...
Yeah, well, you'll find that in all of these platforms. I didn't throw it in the Liberal notes, but
No, I
everybody
know.
mentions
It's everyone is fucking
yes.
bad. It's all bad.
Yes.
Affordability.
Not for cheese, though. Other stuff.
No. You wouldn't want to make it... There is no... This is Churchill. There is no nobler cause for government spending than putting milk into babies. I've paraphrased somewhat, but milk into babies is effectively the thing. But God forbid we make it easier for, parents to buy milk for their kids.
Well, the one thing they do want to make it easier to buy is a house by removing the mortgage stress test and extending the amortization period to 30 years. For mortgages.
Because we didn't have a big enough problem with household debt.
Yeah. So the stress test, I think, is the big problem here. That the 30-year mortgage, depending on your finance, could actually make more sense if you're financially literate and really know what you're doing.
Yeah.
The mortgage stress test, though, is that could go really badly if the economy starts to contract. And Canadians are already over-leveraged, so that, I think, is the bigger problem there.
In fact, we are, I believe, the most over-leveraged of the G20.
So that's not great.
No.
They do want to...
Oh, no, not G20, OECD, which is actually even worse.
That is way worse.
Ha!
So
Things to keep you up at night.
Also, to help with housing affordability, they want to make federal lands that are surplus available for housing development. I mean, how much is in the spots where people really need housing? Probably not a lot.
No.
They also have a build more homes competition to empower municipalities to build more homes, which is kind of working on the assumption that municipalities really want a lot of new homes, and for some reason, they just don't have enough incentive to get over that final hurdle, where, if anything, it's the exact opposite, is that municipalities have too much power to say no to homes.
Yeah, but, that's for an episode of the Cambie Report. So, taxes! Cut the lowest bracket from 15 to 13.75%.
So yeah, this is the flip side of the Liberals' promise we talked about earlier. Like, it's good. Like, if you're going to do a tax cut of the income tax, this is probably as good a spot to cut it as any.
Yeah.
Because it pretty much helps anyone except the people below the basic personal amount.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not a bad way to cut taxes, really.
Expand the volunteer firefighter tax credit, child fitness tax credit.
There's a lot of tax credits here.
It's the low-hanging fruit of lazy policymaking. Hooray.
Yeah, in our notes, just outside of the tax stuff, there's half the notes for the Conservative platform are tax credits for various things. They also, amusingly enough, want to have a review of the Canadian tax system, which will no doubt tell them all of these tax credits are a bad idea and they should just eliminate them. So how they square that circle is going to be interesting.
Wow.
They also want to balance the budget in 5 years and introduce balanced budget legislation, which is dumb for several reasons.
Yeah, I mean...
You can't bind the hands of future parliament, so literally any parliament in the future that wants to borrow money can just say, yeah, we're voiding that, or declaring it void for the purpose of this budget, whatever. It's toothless. Also, you do want to be able to borrow money for stuff like economic contractions, investments in infrastructure, all of these things.
No. Conservative governments have found a way around that infrastructure because of the generally accepted accounting principles. where you get to amortize your infrastructure spending and not count it against the budget balance for the year. Hooray! Foreign policy.
So, like the Liberals, they also want to support multilateral organizations. They change up the names a bit and who they're naming, though they both call out NATO. They also La Francophonie, the Five Eyes as well. So, like,
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, they have banished the one person who left a massive amount of intelligence data in a briefcase at a gangster's girlfriend's house out of the party. So I suppose that large weeping sore in the Conservatives' record is going to resolve itself. And now...
So, additionally, they have a note that they want to advocate for the Kensuk partnership between us, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia.
What a stupid idea. I'm so angry about this. It literally is like one jingoistic like ethno-nationalism or ethno-internationalism, if we're going to be precise about it. But two, it's a romanticization of an economic bloc that never produced very much for the members at the time, and is based solely on historical ties and linguistic ties and not actual economic need, which is what you should be basing your economic policy on. Like, hooray.
The thing I like about it the most is the easier travel.
It's not hard to travel.
I know, just slightly easier. I like the changing area for like us and Australia and what. Like these are minor things, but like it would be moderately nicer. But it's not really the grand foreign policy vision that I think people are looking for.
And I'm just like, if we are going to be spending like it's an opportunity question for me, because like we could be strengthening ties with nations with whom we have like actual security interests. We could finally get around to annexing the Turks and Caicos, blah, blah, blah. I have exclusively good policy ideas. None of them are bad.
Well, speaking of engaging with countries for security interests, they specifically name India and Japan as two countries to reach out to on that. Japan makes a lot of sense because China is becoming increasingly aggressive and present on the world stage.
As does India. I actually quite like India as a
security partner for Canada.
As a security partner, trading partner. We have a lot in common with them governmentally because their constitution was based on ours, and I think have enough historical and commercial ties that it would be a positive to counter a rising China.
Well, the thing that's sure to anger almost everyone in here is recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. So that's a giant hot button that they needlessly decide to push.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's going to piss off most of the Middle East, decent chunk of Canadians.
But might win them back Vancouver South and a couple of ridings in Montreal. No, wait, they're not going to win in Montreal.
Yeah, so this is pure red meat to the base.
Yeah.
Additionally, they want to require a national security review automatically for all corporate acquisitions by state-owned enterprises. Sure. I mean, that seems reasonable.
They also intend to depoliticize military procurement, which is impossible. So why are they even promising it?
I mean, it's a worthy goal, but...
Yeah, but, like, would require a dictatorship. Like, anytime that amount of government money is going to get spent, there is politics involved. Stop pretending there isn't. Also, replace the CF-18.
Replace the CF-18 and the Victoria-class submarines. So, yeah.
With what?
Well, they want to have a replacement selected by 2020, so next year. It'll probably be the F-35.
I mean, it kind of has to be the F-35. Like,
everyone was on the assumption it's going to be the F-35 before the Conservatives decided to sole source it as the F-35, and then everybody got really upset because the fighter everyone thought we were going to buy turned out to be the one we said we were going to buy, but we didn't do an open competition for it.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's kind of a brick, but also the Eurofighter Typhoon doesn't really meet our needs, and the F-35 kind of meets our needs.
It's also better for interoperability with our allies and everything.
Yeah.
Realistically, it's the fighter...
Can we call it CF-35?
We probably will.
Good stuff. And the Victoria-class submarines. Hooray.
Good.
One of them hit the ground. One of them hit the ocean floor
Another one caught fire.
on the way back
Yeah.
from Britain.
They've been just a giant problem for our Navy. So getting replacements would be good for that.
Yeah.
We're
I think we should be building giant sea like Polar 5 icebreakers, but that might actually not be worth it given how quickly the polar ice is melting.
Although it'd still be better than the single-year icebreakers that we are building right now.
Why? We need
They have like a puny 25 mil as their main armament.
we need polar liberals. If you intend to abstractly strengthen Arctic sovereignty, get some icebreakers that have icebreaker helicopter carriers is kind of what I'm thinking, but
Yeah, multi-year icebreakers, some good submarines, just some of that stuff.
yeah.
More
Healthcare.
more patrol aircraft.
Invest in palliative care. There are 4 points in here, one of which is invest in dying well.
So yeah, the Conservatives don't go into a huge amount of detail on healthcare. They have a few different points. I didn't pull out everything in here. They also want to invest $1.5 billion in medical imaging equipment, develop a national autism strategy. All of these are fine by themselves. I don't think there's much to say on it. In terms of safety and security, it's mostly a bunch of standard conservative tough on crime stuff. Hire new border agents. I don't think there's really a huge amount we need to go into there.
No, probably not.
So to kind of wrap it up, a few miscellaneous points. They want to prioritize the commemoration of nation builders. It's like,
Does that mean more statues? Do I get more
I
statues?
think that means more statues.
All right, I'm still not voting for them, but
Yeah, as well as make national museums free. So anyone who feels like trekking out to Winnipeg to visit the closest national museum can now save $18 on admission.
they want to stop the needle exchange programs in prisons because apparently we don't spend enough on treating HIV.
The reason they give is because needles can be used as a weapon. I'm not sure if this is something that's actually a problem that needs to be corrected or something someone seized on. Probably the latter.
Yeah, and will cost us a ton of money in the long run because people will just keep the needles they have and reuse them.
So on the SNC Lavalin stuff, they want to launch a judicial inquiry, but I think most interestingly of the change they're proposing, they want to introduce legislation that will allow the RCMP to go to the Supreme Court saying, we need access to cabinet confidence information for our investigation. Can you please give it to us?
No, we can't do that. Otherwise, the government doesn't work. That's not, no. They should know better. That's abhorrent.
Well, I think the idea is by making it a Supreme Court thing, it's going to limit only like the most critical cases. But yeah,
No.
there's a bunch of questions about that are not well answered.
Nope. No.
Yeah, just for our listeners, the reason you want cabinet confidence, so you want to be able to deliberate on the important stuff without having every thought and every idea that gets discussed, Monday morning quarterback.
I do like that they're prioritizing LGBTQ plus refugees and genocide survivors, though perhaps getting people out before there is a genocide might be good, but...
Additionally, they also want to remove the cap on privately sponsored refugees, which in some ways makes this one of the bolder immigration platforms.
Yeah, that would actually be great. That's actually really good. I'm impressed, actually. That's really, really impressive, especially since, Canada's private refugee system, which is hilarious that we have it, but, Canada's the only country in the world, basically, that is in favor of mass immigration. When Nauru disappears, as it will in the next couple of years, when the coral that it is based on crumbles into the sea, we are going to have to continue to accept people from across the globe. That's amazing, and our private refugee system shows such good outcomes for people. Good stuff. Moving along to other. Yeah.
I guess final thoughts on the Conservative platform.
Final thoughts on the Conservative platform. It's
in some ways, it's kind of the mirror image of the Liberal platform. There's a lot of smaller tweaks. It's even more reliance on the tax credits
Yeah, it's
for everything.
I don't know. It seems like Stephen Harper in drag. It's like a slightly kinder, slightly gentler, but still like...
It's like discount Stephen Harper,
Yeah.
which actually describes Andrew Scheer.
Yeah, it's like drag queens can be mean, and this platform certainly has some mean in it. It doesn't have any vision either.
Yeah, and that's, I think, been the bigger problem over this election, is there's just been a lack of
But
vision
like,
over.
no party is providing it.
No, and we'll get into the kind of
The
second
metagame-
tier part.
The metagame, yeah.
Yes, the next tier parties, and like you do see a little more vision in them, but at the same time, it's largely the stuff they've already run on, and outside of climate specific policies, there isn't a huge amount of like long term vision, and everything else is more or less standard NDP, standard Green Party fare.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because like we really should be recognizing that this is a giant crisis, that the world is going to be consumed in flames in the next 20 years or so, and probably should be retooling our entire economy to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, let's actually now move on to the kind of two parties that are much more interested in retooling the entire economy to deal with it.
Yeah.
Although I think we can quibble about a lot of the specifics on that. The NDP.
Pharmacare, climate plan, student loans, childcare, EI. Oh, these are a bunch of things that the Liberals have stolen.
Yeah, so I mean, the famous quote about the NDP is they're liberals in a hurry.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of the stuff is the same sort of stuff that the Liberals want to do, but just more so.
That's my favorite prime minister, Louis Saint Laurent. No one else. No one else.
Yeah, so they want to bring in a national farmer care plan. They want to invest to create childcare spaces. Also want a $15 minimum wage.
Healthcare, childcare, pharmacare, Mulcare?
Honestly, Mulcair gets too bad a rap.
Oh, totally. Like he got shanked after the last campaign. That was, like, I think pretty unwinnable for them. But so what's new in the NDP platform? A payroll tax. A payroll tax?
So yeah, they want to require employers to pay 1% of payroll on training, which, yeah, I mean, it's a payroll tax, and like that's not
It's not
great.
great.
Payroll taxes tend to do a lot to discourage hiring people.
They're a literal deadweight drag.
Yes, and like targeting at training specifically also doesn't really help, because like, maybe training isn't the thing the employees need the most.
I mean,
Like it's
I
like job training's important, and it's often companies don't invest enough in it, but it's hard to at like a macro level decide for all companies the thing they need to dedicate 1% of their payroll to.
I mean, I understand the problem that they are trying to confront, and I think this is kind of the wrong way to go about doing it, just because I have a kind of inherent dislike of payroll taxes because they are that deadweight drag. But like, employers used to be a lot more involved in training their employees, and they have kind of divested that onto the Ministry of Human Resources and the Ministries of Advanced Education in the respective provinces. And so it has created a problem where there isn't enough money being put into training, which is why we end up with this skill shortage. Addressing the skill shortage probably should have been, like, it's an interest rather than the position that they've taken. That I agree with the assessment of the issue. I don't agree with the prescription.
Yeah, and a lot of the stuff would be helped along if the labor market was a lot tighter, and like unemployment's actually at a pretty low state right now, so that'll start to incentivize. But as long as employers can pretty much just go out and like have just a bouquet of options to choose from, they're not going to invest as much in developing their own internal workforce rather than offloading it to other people.
But on the plus side, they're proposing to institute postal banking. This is probably good.
It's okay. I've never really seen like the big problem postal banking's trying to solve, especially in the modern digital age. Canadian banking's, the fees are a bit high and everything, and it kind of sucks in a lot of cases, but like generally access to financial institutions isn't that big a barrier, and where where there are spots where it needs to be improved. I'm not sure just going with the post office versus an online platform really makes much sense.
I suppose. I mean, the post office could run it. I mean, it's just, it also guarantees the long-term sustainability of the post office, which I also think is a issue of national sovereignty. So, Anyway, can we talk about fish fraud? Let's talk about fish fraud.
Yes, let's talk about fish fraud. You've really picked up on this when you were looking at the platforms earlier, and might as well talk about it in the NDP section.
Okay, so to help, I'm quoting directly from the NDP platform, to help consumers make healthy choices and combat seafood fraud. The NDP platform has, by the way, a lot of random bolding.
Yes, it's actually kind of hilarious to read through. You'll be reading through it and just a random sentence or a random word in a sentence. Like there's this thing about tech where they just have scalable bolded middle of sentence.
A new Democrat government will put into place stronger labeling rules and a boat-to-plate traceability standard for Canadian seafood products.
Wait, are they putting fish on the blockchain?
Oh my god. Oh, that's awesome. Fincoin.
There's at least like $100 million in startup funding there.
But it's not only the NDP. Literally every party
that we checked. We did not look at the People's Party platform.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. They're not important enough for us to worry about.
Have a fish fraud platform plank in them, including the Liberals, who say that we will boost confidence in Canadian fish and seafood products with new rules for tracing and labeling, as well as the Conservatives, who have stated that they will prevent seafood fraud to make sure our honest Canadian fishers and vendors, they also hate being called fishers, they like being called fishermen, even the women, are not cheated. We will work with industry to develop a strategy to prevent seafood fraud and mislabeling, which creates food safety and health risks. By the way, it's not actually at the fish portion of things that most of the problem happens. It's at the restaurant purchase side of things, but I mean, that actually seems like a way bigger problem to tackle. Anyway, fish fraud, yes. The Greens don't have anything specific about the fraud aspect in their platform, so much as like ensuring sustainable fisheries and honesty.
I think they do have a labeling thing in there. Because...
They do mention labeling, although it's the way that they've phrased it, it sounds like it's more in like the farm salmon like side of things, but they do mention labeling, which is, yes, I suppose a good way to prevent fish fraud.
So other big items in the NDP platform, they want to bring in mixed member proportional via citizens assembly, although if you already have your system chosen out, why bother with the citizens assembly?
Indeed.
It really feels like a rubber stamp on that.
Indeed. Why announce a plan for electoral reform when you only wanted an alternative vote? What a question. And of course,
it would be ratified by a referendum after 2 elections.
Just change it.
I don't know. The election. I generally think referendums are a terrible thing, especially
fundamentally illegitimate,
especially in a Westminster system.
Yep.
The only exception I really have on that is fundamental changes to the way politicians are selected. Just because you need a check on politicians changing the system to benefit themselves, and like there isn't another good way in our existing system.
I'm skeptical of that as. Like, I really think that referenda are way too easy to game to make that a legitimate way of changing things. Like, I actually think that it would be easier to get a change through via referendum than it would be to actually engage in a white paper public policy debate in the standard fashion.
Have you seen the referendums we've tried in BC?
Yeah, and they did not pass because they were bad ideas. Also, how will the NDP be soaking the rich this time?
So they want a 1% wealth tax on wealth over $20 million. The Green Party also has the exact same thing in their platform. It's difficult to administer.
Yeah, but it's going to be great for the economy of the Caymans. An increased capital gains tax, which is not a great idea, but sure. Increased highest marginal tax rate by 2%, which is those earning more than $210,000 a year. That I have less of a problem with. And a 15% for, oh my God, Foreign buyers tax and residential purposes of citizens of non-blah, blah, blah. What a
Yeah.
backdoor xenophobia.
So a lot of the stuff around climate and pharmacare we covered back when the NDP dropped this platform during the middle of the summer. So you can go back to listen to it. I think that's episode 143 where Ian and I break it down. But for more details, but top-level thoughts, NDP platform.
It's like a newer, sexier, bespoke suit version of the NDP platform that has been the NDP platform since it was the CCF.
Yeah, they lean a lot more heavily on the climate stuff in here, which is good. And I take issue with a few of the details in there, but go back and listen to episode 143 for that. But overall, like like you said, it's the same platform the NDP have always run on. Like the same sort of stuff, like capping cell phone bills. Like that's as long as there's been cell phones, the NDP's ran on that one. Like it's I don't know. A big thing this election has been where's the policy, where's the new ideas, and the NDP aren't really bringing much freshness to this. I mean, they have a new leader, and there's some freshness there, but in terms of what the NDP is offering Canadians, it's the same thing that Canadians have looked at kind of every election, and about 20% of them, plus or minus 5%, say, yeah. The rest of it, they kind of like the Liberals' take on it, on the same ideas.
You'd almost say that the only fresh meat that they are bringing to the table is jag meat. Moving right along.
Yeah.
To a very brief coverage of the Green Party platform as we are.
Yes. Rapidly approaching the time where we need to end this. But Green Party, unsurprisingly, they talked a lot about climate. But slightly surprisingly, they lead off the start of their platform with Indigenous issues. I think probably in large response to the heat they took for not being particularly
cognizant
of a lot of that's a good way to describe it, of a lot of those issues earlier in this year. So they want to introduce UNDRIP legislation, also allow a voluntary opt-out of the Indian Act for Indigenous communities. You're making a face. Elaborate.
I mean, I don't know what they mean by that. Like, when you say a voluntary opt-out of the Indian Act, like, the Indian Act is the foundation, like, a horrifying, bad foundation filled with corpses. But, like, it is the foundation of the nation-to-nation relationship. I don't know what opting out means. That's a very scary thing because it, like, has just little bells ringing in my head about, like, eliminating C-15 status, and that's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah, so that's kind of phase one, and they want to eventually kind of retool the whole structure of that.
And, like, yes.
But that's a massive thing to untangle, and it's...
Yeah, I mean...
There's a reason that governments that want to advance reconciliation have been slow to change the Indian Act.
Yeah, if only we'd actually gone through with the Colonial Accords, it would have made things quite a bit easier, but we did not.
They also want to fix the drinking water issues in Indigenous communities, improve food security in northern communities by doing the most Green Party thing possible of building greenhouses up there and hydroponic towers in the high Arctic.
We will create the biggest pumpkins in the world. Longest growing season, uninterrupted light creates very big pumpkins. The biggest pumpkin in the world was grown in Alaska.
I did not know that.
The more you know.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the Green signature policy of climate. So they've kind of tweaked some of the stuff in the initial Mission Possible thing that Ian, myself, and Stuart Press had a lot of fun ripping into. For example, where they've talked about buying more water bombers, they thankfully cut out the instead of F-35s, which was their original pitch. Yeah. They've at least slashed that bit, which was a bad policy, because you need both.
Yeah, we do need more water bottles and also F-35s.
Bombers.
Bombers?
You said bombers. Yes, water bombers.
Water bombers. Water bombers aren't the...
To fight wildfires.
Yeah, but they're not actually that great at doing that. Like, the Martin Mars, like, it's actually way more... Never mind. this is a whole thing we can go into at some later point when we talk about like the fact that the province is on fire again. But water bombers are less effective than helicopter drops anyway.
Yeah, so top level on this, they want to pass a climate change act requiring 60% emission cuts below 2005 levels by 2030 with net zero by 2050. So like same 30-year end goal as the Liberals, much more aggressive in the short term. Part of that aggressiveness is phasing out bitumen extraction between 2030 and 2035, prohibiting the sale of internal combustion engine vehicles after 2030, having a 100% renewable grid by 2030, which is hella ambitious and not really going to happen. Same thing with their basically retrofit all the buildings plan.
I mean, they lifted Chicago up.
That's one city.
One. It was a big city.
Yeah. They want to obviously cancel Trans Mountain, have no new oil and gas exploration, and slowly phase out the existing one. Interestingly, they've cut the build a refinery thing. That was that weird part of the Green Party's. Like, we want to refine Canadian oil in Canada as we're doing this phase out thing isn't found in their platform. So that's another thing they've tweaked since their initial rollout of the Mission Possible.
They have a lot of in there about a just transition to a green economy. So there would be income protection, jobs guarantee, and retraining.
Yeah. So I guess final thing I'll say, they also want a high-speed rail between Toronto and Quebec City. It's good. It's like the one spot in Canada, maybe Calgary, Edmonton as well, which they also want.
Yeah,
where it made sense.
I mean, I'm so in favor of a Calgary Edmonton high-speed rail link, except when I see the proposal for the jet train.
The jet train?
It's a train on a high-speed rail line, but the way that it gets to high speed is it has a jet engine mounted on it.
But why?
I know. Why?
Like, we figured out how to make trains go fast without jet engine.
No, jet train. It's so stupid.
Yeah. I mean, part of me is a little surprised Hyperloop didn't get a shout out in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to the economy for the Green Party.
All right. Green economy. I mean, good.
Yeah, a lot of the just transition stuff. Same thing that we didn't really talk about this in the NDP platform, but it's also there. A lot of stuff around supporting workers, retraining them from oil and gas to other stuff. They also want to bring in a guaranteed annual income, which like they mostly pitch this as a way to deal with automation, which we'll get to in a moment, as well as during the transition. Like, I could see the benefits of a universal basic income, guaranteed annual income. I'm not really sure transitioning and like particularly automation is really the reasons for it.
Actually, I kind of disagree. I think that a guaranteed livable or guaranteed annual income is probably the end result of an automation economy and is going to be the thing that prevents massive social unrest from taking place when automation makes a third of people unemployable.
Well, actually, let's just get into that now.
Sure.
So this has been something that the Green Party's talked about at one point during the campaign. I didn't see it in the platform, but they floated the idea of a robot tax and a bunch of this stuff to deal with automation. I talked about it on a previous episode, so I won't really dive into it here. But like, largely, I'm not sure automation really presents a significant threat to a workforce. Like, there will be changes in which jobs are available, but looking at previous phases of automation and technological development, we haven't seen massive unemployment result. We've seen changes in employment. And the reason that 95% of people don't farm anymore is because of technological advances. And those 95% of people didn't become unemployed.
But we can't all work in the tech industry, and I don't know that there's going to be enough demand for YouTube videos. Like I don't want everyone to become a podcaster.
I mean, yeah, we want, like, we
want
do want a little less competition. In the
we want your Patreon dollars at patreon.com/politicos. Come spend money on us. Don't become a podcaster yourself because your job got automated.
Really not where I thought we'd end up with this, but Well, that's the thing. Is like it's hard to predict ahead of time where the jobs are going to be, but if history's any indication, it generally resulted in a reallocation of jobs rather than an elimination of them.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical because like the dislocations in this next round are going to be very substantial. I mean, the reason people left farms is not because there weren't farming jobs anymore. It's because there were like better opportunities in cities.
But we got a lot better at farming, so you needed fewer people to farm the same amount of food.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that with like
think
automation you lead to is you need fewer people to make the stuff, so those people can then do other stuff and we get cheaper stuff. And if anything, the bigger problem we have in the economy right now is we're not getting as productive as we need to be. Productivity growth has been abysmal. And if anything, automation is not showing up in the productivity statistics. And if anything, that should be a worrying sign, but in the other way than the Green Party and a lot of other parties for that matter are seeing it as. Especially with an aging population where we need to squeeze like every ounce of productivity we can out of the economy because the ratio of workers to retirees is trending in a very bad direction.
Yeah, we do. I'm just really worried when like truck automation gets effective because I won't have any of those commercial trucking tickets to deal with anymore. But more, it's like 20% of people work in a transportation industry. It's an insane amount of people, and
I know the American statistic better than the Canadian one, but I think it's 3 million Americans work in transportation. And for Canada, it would be probably around 300,000, roughly.
Oh, have I massively overestimated that?
This is entirely going off memory here, so I could be wrong, but it's still a sizable part. Like broken down by sector, that's one of the largest individual sectors. It's not to say there won't be some disruption to it, but I think at a macro level, whether we'll see disruption and high unemployment as the result, I think remains to be seen.
We're both wrong. It is approximately 30 million Americans.
30 million.
9.1%.
Okay, maybe it's 3 million Canadians then?
Yeah.
I had the 3 million number stuck. Right?
Yeah,
so maybe it's 3 million
I think it's 3 million Canadians because we are effectively the same place.
Yeah, the same place but a tenth the size.
Yeah.
Moving on to other Green Party platform policies. A lot of the tax stuff is fairly similar to the NDP. I mean, they want to raise corporate taxes. They want to close various tax loopholes, increase people going after the tax avoidance, as well as the same wealth tax. So not a huge amount to really talk about there. On affordability, we touched on the guaranteed annual income thing already. Like every other part, at least 3 or 4 other parties, they want a $15 minimum wage for federal workers. The thing that stuck out to me on the minimum wage stuff, though, is they also want to work with municipalities to set municipal minimum wages, which seems hella unconstitutional for the federal government to grant minimum wage powers to cities.
Which is the province? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional. That will require a provincial act.
Yeah, not much to say there.
Yep.
They don't talk a huge amount about foreign policy, kind of the same stuff as every other parties. They want to create a better way to procure equipment for the Canadian military. They also want to renegotiate the Safe Third Country Agreement, which every party wants to do, but for various reasons. Sign a treaty to abolish nuclear weapons, which, I mean, I see why the Green Party wants it, but at the same time, we do kind of benefit from the U.S.'s nuclear arsenal. And
yeah, I mean, we can't, I don't know. I'm not in favor of unilateral disarmament, so.
Yep, I kind of concur with that.
Because Russophobia is not only popular, it is kind of good public policy.
Yeah. So a few miscellaneous things to wrap this up for the Green Party. They talked a fair bit about Canada Post, more than the other parties do. They want to make all Canada Post vehicles EV and require all e-commerce deliveries to have the last mile be by Canada Post electric vehicle.
That's dumb.
Yes. Also, they want to bring back home delivery, which is also a bad policy.
I'm a little torn on this because I am kind of I have been looking into the social resiliency benefits of having at-home mail delivery, not so much in terms of getting people their mail, but like having a regular state interaction with people.
I mean, perhaps.
Perhaps.
I'm not sure it's really. I'm not
I'm
sure you
not-
necessarily want to structure the get people their stuff system around that. And I know.
But maybe you have door-to-door bankers. Merge the policies into a giant, messy nonsense.
Yeah.
And maudit Putin, if you will.
I grew up with like the post box down the street thing.
The
so
super boxes.
yeah,
me too.
2/3 of Canadians had them before the latest change, and like I have trouble seeing why that other 1/3 really is more deserving of it beyond path dependency. And this is just going off my own personal experience here, but like it's just not that big a thing. Like there's obviously some people with mobility issues, and the policy should be sensitive to that, but at a macro Canada-wide level, home delivery really just doesn't make a huge amount of sense.
No, I suppose not.
It's a bunch of like miscellaneous Green Party stuff as well, like support local organic agriculture.
Encourage use of charter cities?
Yeah, that was in there as a throwaway line, or a single line.
I mean, good policy, but not for the federal government.
No, it's such a weird thing, and also, yeah, not a federal government thing. Also, I think I might have been wrong when I said we had the most Green Party thing ever earlier in this, because they want to eliminate excess plastic packaging on legal cannabis,
Oh.
which I actually think is the most Green Party thing ever.
Yeah, that is true. But also, like, the weed I buy has too much plastic.
Okay, I don't buy the legal weed, or the illegal stuff for that matter, so I'm not up on it, but
I buy the legal weed because I want that sweet, sweet custom stamp. I love it. Little hologram.
yeah. So we're already a little over time here, but wrapping up, Green Party thoughts.
I don't know. Like, the Green Party is so much less serious than the other parties, it seems. And it's so much less serious than the provincial Green Party that I find it very difficult to take them seriously.
Yeah, I do think the BC Green Party is kind of the high point of the Green Parties, because the local Green Party is terrible, but you can listen to the Cambie report for all of that and the reasons why that's true. And the federal Green Party, they're not terrible, but they're not particularly serious. And like, there's a lot of stuff that, when I say very Green Party, I mean it's like the very surface level thing you'd think a Green Party would support before you actually dig into, like, does this really make sense? And that's kind of the problem I have with the federal Green Party, is a lot of it sounds good, some of it sounds terrible. But like, once you start thinking about second order effects and everything, it's not that great a collection of policies.
Yeah.
Even if the intention is really good.
Yeah, it's like playing chess against someone who has just learned the basic moves of chess and like haven't learned how to think like one step ahead or two steps ahead.
Yeah, and that's been the problem with the Green Party, I think, this whole campaign, is they haven't really gotten the politics particularly right.
Know how to think, like, they do know that they want to win. Like, I admire the end goal in that they want to win the chess match, i.e. prevent an extinction level ecological crisis. But
it's the steps in between that need a little more work.
Yeah. So
the only other thing I'll say to this is the Tories with Teslas thing that gets trotted out during part isn't really shown here. And
no,
that's a thing the NDP likes to really say because they don't like the Green Party eating into their vote. But like, just looking at this, it's not true.
No, it's true provincially, and it's definitely true municipally. In the most disappointing way, because like the
worst parts of the Tory is what shows through.
Yeah,
there's some good stuff that
the most Tory of the municipal councillors, at least in terms of like classic Tory small business, blah blah blah, is the least green, i.e.
Yes.
the least awful in the municipal sense, but. Check out the Cambie report. We'll be releasing a new episode sometime next week. I promise.
Okay. So in the last one we promised on this podcast.
Well, okay, yeah.
We won't get into it now because we're running long.
Bad stuff happened in my life, to be honest. So I apologize for that delay.
But let's wrap this up.
Thank God.
Okay. So we've seen the 4 platforms of the 4 major national parties. Tory Bloc and People's Party, you don't count. what are your high-level thoughts?
There's no vision here.
Yeah, I kind of agree. The Dream Party actually does have this is what we want to see Canada like in 2030. As one of the few parties that actually lays something out on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all the implementation problems we just talked about, so big asterisks there. And the other parties just don't have that. And that's really disappointing is there's no like grand vision for the future Canada. There's no, besides adapting and preventing climate change, there's not really a big project for a nation building project for Canada. And there's just also a lot of important things that we should be talking about that aren't really prevalent here. We touched on a couple of them as we're going through this. The economy, like no party really has a significant grow the economy. They have tweaks around it, but no one really has policies to address productivity, much in the way of forward-thinking stuff around new technology and how to really leverage it to our benefit. Where new technology does get discussed, it's mostly how do we stop the bad stuff from it happening, or how do we use this to lower emissions, which is good, but it doesn't really get us to the next question of how do we leverage that to make all of our lives more prosperous, and just better.
Yeah.
And that's disappointing. And they also don't talk about having an aging population at all and how to maintain the prosperity we have now and the dynamism that, well, honestly could be a lot better in our economy, how to maintain that as we confront those issues.
Well, I think it is a reflection of the fact that Canadians don't have a very good idea of the problems that we face. Like, we don't feel the existential threat of climate change. We don't feel the problematic changes to our economy that are definitely in the pipeline because they are all granular, and an aging population, you don't, like, it's not like a intrinsically understandable crisis, but it is a crisis. What are we going to do? I don't know.
So good question. This has some foreign policy stuff, but I won't get into that because we're running a little long. So I guess my next question to you is, looking just at the platforms and the campaign as a whole, who has made the case a convincing one that they should govern?
No one. But
that's kind of my feeling too.
We're
not going to be doing endorsements on this pod.
I guess I default to the Liberals because they promised me that they'd treat me like a person when I was 16 years old and a very insecure gay kid growing up in Alberta. And so I voted Liberal in every election since. But, man, we've got big problems in this country, and no one seems like they really are interested in solving them.
Yeah, neither the parties or the media, for that matter, covering this election has really done it. And I'll just say one other thing on this, which is, in addition to the policy stuff, which I find very important, I try and make a point of discussion on every podcast, in addition to the more day-to-day horse race stuff. There's also the question that I always try and think about when I'm deciding how to vote, and that is, which of the leaders do I think will handle the unexpected? Because, these platforms are, 100 pages each. They're not going to be able to foresee everything that's going to happen over the next 4 years, or, if our projections are true for the outcome of this election, then that's 18 months. But there's just a lot of uncertain stuff. We didn't know that we were going to have to deal with China holding 2 of our citizens hostage, and a lot of these things that just come up. And something I always try and weigh is...
Or America going fascist.
That too. Is which party leader do I trust to handle the unexpected? Whether it's a foreign policy crisis, the economy collapsing, any of these things. The stuff we can't know about when we're looking and comparing platforms. And I don't know. None of the party leaders have really crossed that threshold for me. And honestly, this is the first election in quite a while where that's been true.
Yeah.
And...
say what you will about Stéphane Dion, but the man had vision.
Yeah. And Harper certainly had his problems, but...
He had an idea of what Canada...
Well, he had an idea of what Canada was, and, I could be reasonably confident that should something bad happen internationally, that he'd have a decent response to it. Now we could disagree on a bunch of the specifics of his policies, but overall, a lot of the past leaders in a lot of different parties met that basic test of, I trust them in a crisis. And none of these leaders have crossed that bridge for me.
No. No. So with that inspiring note about the federal election,
Predictions, I guess. That's the only last thing I have on here.
Liberal minority.
Yeah, I think that's the likely outcome. The seat fluctuations have gone back and forth between minorities
No, I'll lock it in. I'll say liberal plurality.
Okay.
And the end result at the end of the day will be a liberal minority government with no coalition agreement.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be I think that's the most likely outcome. And just running through the possible scenarios post-election, if there isn't a party with a majority, I have trouble seeing how Andrew Scheer can win the confidence of the House, given the other parties and their relative positions.
Yeah, in my mind, it is liberal minority, then liberal majority, then liberal minority / coalition with the NDP, and then hung parliament. Election in 3 months.
Yeah, so we may be back at this, comparing platforms and hopefully more inspiring campaigns in a few months. Or maybe we'll all just get a break and it'll be a boring majority government, though not likely.
I mean, that's what we all thought last time. We all thought it was going to be a minority, but then we got a majority.
So we'll just have to see.
What a day. Stay tuned. Monday, go vote. Don't you dare not vote. Go spoil your ballot if you have to, if you really are uninspired by everything. But seriously, get involved. I mean, you're listening to this podcast, so obviously you're like among the most brilliant and engaged and wonderful people in the country. But, do your civic duty. Encourage your friends to vote. This is important, even if none of the party leaders are treating it like that.
Okay, Matthew, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Scott.
And that has been Politicos. Find links to everything we talked about at politicos.ca. If you're a first-time listener, make sure to subscribe and let us know what you think. Support the show and get access to our exclusive Slack channel at patreon.com/politicos. If you have ideas for the show, feel free to send them to us. Our intro music credit is Beautiful British Columbia by Thursday Plotnikoff. Thanks for listening.